Central Florida is vulnerable to storms coming from the East Coast, from the West Coast, from the South. You know where you're going to go.
Hurricane season is here. The time to prepare is now. Know your risk, know what to do to get results, and keep your family safe.
You got to prepare every single year as if you're going to be hit, because you can't count on what happened in the past to get you through the future.
Good evening. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Sorrells. Our entire Pinpoint Weather team has come together for a special edition of News 6 at 7. We don't want you to panic. We want you to prepare, because we're all waiting for when, not if, the next hurricane comes our way. NOAA is predicting another above-average season, 13 to 20 named storms, 6 to 10 of those becoming hurricanes, with 3 to 5 becoming major hurricane, Category 3 or greater storms.
Last year's season was so active, it shattered records with 30 named storms. We had to use the Greek alphabet because we ran out of names. And all of that happened in the middle of a global pandemic. I'm meteorologist Troy Bridges. That pandemic is still with us, and hurricane season is back. If that has you feeling exhausted, you're not alone.
We had such an extraordinary hurricane season.
After the most active hurricane season on record,
We saw some really remarkable rates of strengthening.
during a pandemic,
There's a lot of fatigue, not just pandemic fatigue.
Dr. Michael Brennan understands families may feel worn out.
I think there's still hurricane fatigue left over from 2020.
Everyone at the National Hurricane Center lived through it
It
too.
was really a real success story, I think,
To pull that off, the Hurricane Center family had to plan.
where we were able to do operations remotely. And then when things got really busy and we had storms threatening the United States, we were able to come in here and work in the office and keep socially distant, and we wore masks.
Now your family needs a plan.
Know your risk, make sure you're covered with insurance, know where you're going to go, how you're going to take care of yourself, so you don't have to make a plan when a storm threatens you at the last minute.
Because the pandemic will still be with us.
So you really have to have your guard up the entire season and be ready.
To be ready, stay informed.
Because you can have a storm like a Michael that forms and makes landfall as a major hurricane in 2 or 3 days.
Because storms often grow stronger.
Every Category 5 hurricane that's made landfall in the United States was a tropical storm 2 or 3 days before, and they hit that sweet spot and they rapidly strengthened.
Despite any fatigue you're feeling, pay attention.
What you may be told to do in a storm that might threaten you in June or July might be different from what you might be told in September or October. So people are just going to have to be able to adapt and adjust.
Get your family ready now.
Might have to evacuate for storm surge, know where you're going to go.
For when the next storm comes our way.
Try to see if you can go stay with a friend or neighbor that lives outside the surge zone.
Don't panic.
You don't have to travel hundreds of miles. You travel tens of miles to get yourself to safety.
But do prepare.
Just having that plan in place now can really reduce your anxiety level and your level of tension and stress when the storm actually approaches.
Over the next hour, we'll help ease that stress, and I'll take you shopping for a hurricane survival kit that meets your family's needs. And I'll show you how to save big money during this week's sales tax holiday.
I'm meteorologist Samara Kokinas. Every year when storms knock out the power, people fire up their generators. And unfortunately, every year, people die. I asked an expert to show all of us, where you should go and where you should not set up a generator and what else you might need to do to keep your family safe.
And I'm meteorologist Candace Campos. A special kind of home inspection can slash hundreds, even thousands from your insurance bill. More importantly, you'll know if your roof is ready to protect your family and how to take action to improve those odds. And I'll show you step by step how to build a safe room that your whole family can use to ride out a storm. I know firsthand that they can truly save lives.
And I'm meteorologist Jonathan Kagas. We're answering your questions all hour from our clickorlando.com headquarters. I'll run down some of the top ones throughout this newscast. And if you have a question, just head over to our homepage right now.
It's important to get your questions answered and get a plan in place, because the truth is, Central Florida has been so lucky the past few hurricane seasons. Last year, Louisiana, their luck ran out. 5 storms made landfall there in 2020. And just miles from Florida, entire islands of the Bahamas were wiped out by Dorian in 2019. The Category 5 storm barely budged for more than 2 days. Then it turned, and we lucked out again. I asked the National Hurricane Center Director Ken Graham about our odds and our luck running out. You now have the honor of being the director of the Hurricane Center for the worst season ever, or at least the most active season ever.
What a relentless season. I mean, the word relentless has come up so many times. I mean, 30 named storms, setting a record, 170 years of record keeping. So, and we did that during a pandemic. So when I look back at the season, I think about the impact to people, not just in this country, but other countries. But even here at the Hurricane Center, taking the steps that we needed to take to keep this place safe.
What do you think about the factor of luck? How lucky have we been in the last few seasons?
You know, a couple things to say there. I mean, you look at, Matthew, but I also look at Dorian, too. I mean, you think about a small shift in the global pattern would have put that stall that was over the Bahamas, it could have stalled over South Florida. This is such a big thing that we have to get out there. Little wiggles matter. You move a storm 20 miles, that could be the difference between hurricane force and not hurricane force. Or that could mean the difference between a foot of storm surge or 10 to 15 feet of storm surge. 20 miles can do that.
Ken, I think you just gave me a new line. Normally, I stress that a hurricane is not a point. I think we're going to say, look, a hurricane is not a point, but little wiggles matter. I think I'm into it. I like that a lot.
It works. It is true. It's scientifically correct.
I like that a lot. You know, like 4 years ago, I went crazy on the air as Hurricane Matthew was steaming towards my market, and it looked like it was going to be an age-defining. We're going to talk about before Matthew and after Matthew look in Brevard County. I was scared to death. It's the most fear I've had of any storm that in the last 20 years. And so I've always told people, if that storm had come 10 miles farther west, it would have been an age-defining storm.
It doesn't take much change to make a big difference on the ground. So think of it this way. You got to prepare every single year as if you're going to be hit, because you can't count on what happened in the past to get you through the future.
Little wiggles matter. All right. You'd think the vaccine rollout would make planning easier for local leaders, but Seminole County says emergency shelters should be your absolute last option thanks to new strict state rules.
We cannot require masks. We cannot require vaccines. We can't even ask about vaccines. So we're really encouraging people to not go to an emergency shelter, seek anything else other than an emergency shelter.
Leaders in our coastal counties told News 6's Molly Reed lessons from the pandemic will help them help you this hurricane season.
Both Volusia and Flagler County's emergency management teams are coming off of a very busy year with COVID-19 and the vaccinations for it, but there's a lot they said they learned logistically and communications-wise that they'll be carrying over to this year's hurricane season.
We actually have some new equipment that will help us break down disaster supplies, and we actually have a new vehicle to help us distribute disaster supplies.
EMA Director Jonathan Lord says Flagler has more community groups ready to get supplies out faster, and with stronger online tools, Flagler and Volusia can both quickly send emergency alerts.
We actually staff up and end up with well over 100 people, 100 county employees, as well as volunteers that come into our emergency operations center.
We determine how the hurricanes will interact with the land. In other words, how far the storm surge will come onto the land.
The improved Alert Flagler system can give status updates on your exact location. You can sign up on the county's website. So can Volusia Code Red Alerts, and Volusia also has an emergency management app for your phone.
We have not made significant changes to either evacuation zones or evacuation routes.
In Volusia and Flagler counties, I'm Molly Reed getting results, News 6.
When disasters strike, local and state governments often ask FEMA to send in people, food, water, and even supplies. But FEMA says you can take steps now that'll help them help you in the aftermath.
The people of Florida are very resilient, having come from Florida myself.
Robert Simon is Deputy Regional Administrator of FEMA for Florida.
Growing up in Daytona Beach, I saw it. You know, I still see it every hurricane season.
He says FEMA's mission is to help people before, during, and after disasters, but planning has to come first.
Before the hurricane, we'll pre-stage commodities such as fuel, power generation capability, water, food.
FEMA's known for helping get that food, fuel, and water where it's needed.
I think a common misnomer is that FEMA is going to be the first responder on the ground or there, immediately after the storm strikes. And the reality is that disasters are at the local level. They're handled by the local government first. So we say locally executed, state managed.
Only one part of a bigger team.
I like to say we're all in it together. 2020 was an interesting hurricane season for all of us.
And not just because of the storms.
Responding in a pandemic was a unique and new one for many of us.
The first time FEMA led a nationwide response to a pandemic.
We'll be carrying out some of our disaster relief services virtually through our national processing centers.
Working 230 declared emergencies in a single year, including COVID-19.
We also realize that there's things that will require some physical presence.
5,300 FEMA members fanned out to every corner of the nation. They were in the field for a record 314 days out of 365. The old record, 78 days.
We stand ready to do our mission, and again, helping people before, during, and after disasters.
But FEMA needs you to help too.
You know your home, you know your neighborhood better than anybody else.
By being prepared.
So, go and figure out what your risks are and then take action. Don't wait, and take action now.
Check your homeowner's insurance policies and see what it covers.
Many people are surprised to hear that their homeowner's insurance policy doesn't cover certain kinds of wind damage brought on by a hurricane, or that there's added deductibles. Take action now, because many policies take time to go into effect. I know that if you were looking for a flood insurance policy, it takes 30 days to go into effect from the date that you order that.
And later, we tell you why FEMA says nearly everyone should consider a flood insurance policy, even if you don't live near water, even if you rent. You may be amazed at how much money you could save.
I hope it never happens, but if your family is ordered to evacuate, do you know what to take with you? It's more than clothes and some snacks. Trooper Steve unpacks what you should pack and why when News 6 at 7 continues.
It's hurricane season. But Chief Meteorologist Tom Sorrells and the Pinpoint Weather Team are here for you, because when the tropics heat up, we stay focused. No hype, no noise. Just a calm, consistent, accurate weather team tracking the hurricane's path with pinpoint Doppler radar and 3D views bring us inside the storm to help keep you and your family safe. This hurricane season, stay prepared with the News 6 Pinpoint Weather Team and the Hurricane Tracker app. News 6, getting results.
Welcome back. When Hurricane Andrew devastated South Florida nearly 30 years ago, my childhood home was destroyed while we were inside. I owe my life to the tiny half bathroom my family prepared for us to ride out the hurricane. And preparing a safe room isn't very difficult. You can even get the little ones involved. When picking out a safe room, find a room with the least amount of windows. That could be a room or a closet. In our case, it's this small bathroom. Before a storm, I like to convert this linen closet into a hurricane supply headquarters. So in case you have to run in here during the storm, you have everything you need in one spot. Some of my supplies include plenty of water for everyone. A few jugs could also be useful in case the water is shut off and you need to wash your hands or flush the toilet. Have a cooler to keep things like medications cold. A battery-operated fan to help circulate the air. And make sure to have a light source for each person, like flashlights or lantern to light up the room. And with many things battery operated, make sure you have enough of the correct batteries. Staying up to date is key during a storm, so be sure to have multiple forms of communication. This includes a radio, a charged cell phone, and a weather radio. Now, one of my must-haves in a safe room is resealable plastic bags. You can use them for many things. You can seal important documents and IDs that you don't want to get wet. Other things like keys and your cell phone, or even things that smell a little bit like dirty diapers. Don't forget a complete first aid kit, assorted snacks, bug repellent, and baby wipes. Now remember, you could be in this room for hours. So make sure you pick things to keep you comfortable. That can include maybe a beach towel, a yoga mat, and some pillows. Okay. Speaking of comfort, make sure to get the whole family involved in preparing your safe room, including the kids. Have them pick out a special item to have in there. This could be a special toy, a game, or even an iPad, because these small comforts can also help ease any anxiety they might have during a storm.
Every hurricane season, we're told, make sure your home is ready to survive a storm. But what does that mean? A home improvement expert walked Julie Broughton through what to look for.
Are your doors and windows ready for hurricane season?
And if it's something that you've thought about for a little bit, just have somebody come out and really see.
Tat Granata from Florida Home Improvement Associates says the first step is walking the perimeter of your home with an expert, looking at vulnerabilities, including potential debris.
But you are concerned about the tree limbs and want to make sure that they're cut away from the house. And right now, where there's no hurricane protection, that is a real concern.
Granata says some of the features that give this Baldwin Park home curb appeal can also present challenges, like this porch with an overhang and windows at the corner.
And you know, around the corners of the home, you get a push and a pull on the glass, which starts like a little bit of a cyclone effect.
And anytime you have an overhang, that can allow strong winds to get trapped. Granata says if you don't have hurricane impact glass, that can lead to bigger problems than just a broken window.
Yeah, most times when you lose your roof, it's because one of the openings was breached, whether it be a window or door, where flying debris hits glass. The hurricane's now in the home, causes a lot of pressure, and then a roof section flies off.
Granata says because you can't break hurricane impact glass, that also protects from intruders year-round. And here's another thing to think about.
Right here, it's certainly exposed to the heat and the sunlight, so you can protect your home from the hurricane, as well as ordering an energy-efficient glass pack, which will make the home a lot more comfortable and certainly save you a lot of money on your energy bills.
Thanks, Julie. After any storm, portable generators can get results for your family until the power's back. But they also take hundreds of lives each year, and generators aren't just dangerous after hurricanes.
It could have taken my life. It could have taken my daughter's life.
Melinda Ethington got an unexpected call.
I don't feel very good. There's a weird smell coming in the apartment.
From her daughter Peyton at home.
My worst fear was carbon monoxide, actually.
Peyton told herself it's probably just paint fumes until Mom arrived.
I opened the door and there was just a smell that was just strong.
911 urged Melinda, get your daughter and your dog out now.
Fire trucks were there within minutes. They said that there was carbon monoxide in my apartment and it was at a lethal dose. They began immediately putting her on oxygen.
Meanwhile, under Melinda's apartment.
And the door was locked, but they could hear something running in there.
Inside a storage unit.
And they had to break the door down. And when they opened it, it was a generator that was running.
Left running by a contractor.
The firefighters were very mad.
Who assumed fumes would pass under the door. Instead, deadly gas silently seeped up, spreading through vents, exposing Peyton, Melinda, and their neighbors for hours.
It'll find any kind of gap or crack or anything you can go through. It's an odorless gas.
Dusty Herbert of Complete Power Resources says generators don't have to be dangerous.
Well, as long as you're doing it, being safe about it, they're great to use.
But you have to know the rules.
It's not okay to put it near windows?
No, ma'am.
Where else is it not okay?
Out there, windows, you don't want to put it in your garage opening. Even if you're pointing it out, the wind can blow the exhaust back in the garage. You want to keep it outside. You want to keep it away from the building. You want to make sure you shut it off before you try to fuel it. Make sure you got the right size extension cords before you start powering. These little tiny orange cords and little brown cords you get from Home Depot are not what you're supposed to be using. You're going to end up catching your house on fire if you're not careful.
I didn't have gas heat. I didn't have any gas appliances in my apartment.
Melinda and Peyton's story shows
that could have happened anywhere.
And anytime. So every home needs a carbon monoxide detector just like a smoke detector. And check the batteries because
most carbon monoxide poisonings don't have a happy ending. If none of us had called, what would have happened the next morning?
Another thing you must take seriously, the order to evacuate. It is not worth losing your life to try to ride out a storm. But Trooper Steve says bringing the right things with you makes evacuating easier.
Now that you've decided to either voluntarily evacuate or you find yourself under one of those mandatory evacuations, here's a list of things that I feel you should have in the car with you before you hit the road. When I'm talking about important documentation, I'm talking about stuff that's personal to you. Birth certificate, passport, driver's license, medical records, photos of everyone that is currently traveling. Make sure you've got cash too. You don't know what may come about during your travels, whether something may or may not have power. Proactive and reactive medicine. You never know when those dangerous situations may come across. And if you're traveling with kids, games. Busy work, stuff that will keep them distracted from the dangerous situation at hand, snacks and water. You don't know how long you're going to be on the road, so anywhere from 3 to 4 days. Also, don't forget to pack your pet snacks and food also if they're traveling with you. And also a big thing to have, change of clothes and hygiene products for about 3 to 5 days. Every packing list will change from family to family. At the end of the day, you want what's good for you and the people traveling with you. I'm Trooper Steve with News 6, getting results.
And I'm meteorologist Jonathan Kegas in our ClickOrlando.com headquarters. If you have a question, just head to ClickOrlando.com. We're answering them live over the next about 40 minutes or so. Here's a big one that we got in. Are we in a La Nina or El Nino, and what does that even mean? So again, head over to our live chat. I want to show you this, though. Basically, this year, it's ENSO neutral. ENSO is the big, long word here for El Nino Southern Oscillation. And that's if it's a half a degree above normal in the western and the Pacific, off the coast of Peru, way over there. That means we are in an El Nino. If it's the anomaly for the water temperature way over by Peru is a half a degree Celsius below normal, we would be considered a La Nina. Right now, we are neutral. So that La Nina we had at the end of hurricane season last year has backed off. So we are neutral. There is an opportunity for that to come back. It's a slight chance. The key, though, is we are not in an El Nino. And even though we don't have that La Nina in play to enhance things, we don't have the El Nino in play to suppress things. So the key is El Nino, again, helps to suppress the season. Still a neutral. We don't really have that to not suppress it, guys.
All right, preparing for hurricane season can be expensive, and I know money is tight for many of you. But right now, you can save money by stocking up this week. Next, what's best to buy during the sales tax holiday?
This week, Floridians can shop for hurricane season tax-free. News 6's Mark Lehman shows you what to do and how you can save right now.
The list of items in this tax break is actually pretty long. It includes everything set up at this table here at this Ace in Apopka. All of this is meant to encourage everyone to prepare for this upcoming hurricane season. Stocking up on the essentials. That's what state leaders are hoping families will do as Florida's disaster preparedness sales tax holiday begins.
7% is more than most sales, so when you're saving that tax, that's significant.
Many items that can help families get through a hurricane will be tax-free. The list includes candles, flashlights, and lanterns that are $40 or less, batteries under $50, tarps $100 or less, and portable generators up to $1,000.
We can help you just simply get a flashlight, some batteries, a radio, something that will just help you stay prepared.
Matthew Audier with Ace Hardware says workers are ready to help put together supply kits.
Pull out what you have, see what you need to refill, see what you need to fill in the blanks.
And with an above-average hurricane season in the forecast, there's no better time to get ready, all while saving money along the way.
When we actually hear of a hurricane coming, there's always a run on the shelves. So now is the time to get prepared. Now is the time to be thinking about it.
Now, in addition to these items being tax-free in stores, the incentive is also offered online for those wishing to do their shopping at home. Florida's sales tax holiday runs through June 6th. Reporting in Apopka, Mark Lehman, getting results, News 6.
A little later, I'll take you shopping and show you what to stock up on. There's more to it than packing some water and snacks.
Many of you are asking if climate change is to blame for record-shattering hurricanes. In minutes, why a top hurricane expert says warming plays a role, but maybe not the way you'd expect.
At the original mattress factory, our beds are not just American-made, they're hometown-made, using only the highest quality materials.
We are the only team that has an actual storm chaser. I mean, can you imagine? People talk about it, you see stories like that on Discovery Channel or something. Troy actually did it. Racing through the hills of Oklahoma and the flatland out there looking for tornadoes. I can't imagine. But it's great to have that experience on staff. So anytime there is a threat of a tornado, Troy knows what he's looking for. He's been there and done it all. That's how we get results.
For generations we've served you, and for generations we will. Our everyday low prices and top brands make it easy. La Mesa RV, trusted by families for generations so you can experience life.
When you choose Orlando Health Cancer Institute, you choose to triumph. Because we hit cancer with everything we've got. From award-winning experts to the latest care and advancements, to a huge dose of understanding and compassion. all working in harmony with the combined strength of the entire Orlando health system to guide your personal triumph over cancer. Choose cancer care closer to home. Choose Orlando Health Cancer Institute.
Great parties start by recycling the new Ball aluminum cup. In about 60 days, the recycled aluminum can return as part of other infinitely recyclable, lightweight yet sturdy cups. Bringing out the best in cold drinks and lifting up any get-together. So enjoy. Reuse just a few times if you like, and then recycle the new Ball aluminum cup because the party starts here. Find us in your store's disposable section and choose aluminum over plastic.
Stealing the gold that's buried in the heat. Running to your own when your heart won't beat. Following circles and cycles you don't know you're blind to. Heart in your soul when your heart won't beat.
I got it at City. Right now at City Furniture, we'll give you 60 months special financing with no down payment and free shipping. Why? So everyone can live like this.
For generations, we've served you with top RV brands at everyday low prices. A new Thor Motor Coach Rise motorhome is discounted over $8,000. La Mesa RV, trusted by families for generations, so you can experience life.
Everyone needs to look at their individual risk.
You really have to have your guard up the entire season.
Don't wait and take action now.
This hurricane season, like all hurricane seasons, we need to be ready. But this year, a new tool could really get results.
It'll be a new first for us here at NOAA, and we're excited about it for the season.
How a specialized drone will look at storms where it's not safe to fly. Welcome back to an extended edition of News 6 at 7, tracking the tropics on this first day of hurricane season 2021. The past decade has been so active, the average number of storms has gone up. So are hurricanes more frequent, more intense? And what role does our warming climate play in all of this? For insight, I turn to an old friend, Dr. Phil Klotzbach. He leads the Colorado State University's legendary forecasting team. Do you see a difference in seasonal forecasting from year to year based on anything to do with climate change?
Yeah, so most of the changes that we see with hurricanes are primarily due to not necessarily the storms themselves getting stronger, but they're more like tertiary impacts, such as, as sea levels continue to rise, we're likely to see the storm surge penetrating farther inland, just because the background sea level is higher, as well as with a warmer atmosphere, it can hold more moisture and therefore can bring more rainfall. When it comes to the number of storms, you don't necessarily expect to see an increase in the overall number of storms, perhaps just the storms that do form, perhaps reaching a little bit higher intensity. But with regards to the actual hurricane season itself, typically we have seen some storms forming before the start of the hurricane season, and there is some discussion about potentially even moving the hurricane season for start date back from June 1st to May 15th.
What do you think about that? You think that's a good idea, or you're against that?
You are seeing some of these early season storms, but in general, they're fairly weak and short-lived. On average, by August 15th, we have one hurricane. It's hard from necessarily from a messaging perspective. If we say hurricane season starts May 15th, then we go for 3 months and have on average one hurricane.
Obviously, it was wackadoodle last year. We went nuts with the names, got in the Greek alphabet. You're not going to come out here and tell me we're going to have 30 named storms, right?
That's correct. We're not forecasting 30 named storms. Although to be fair, we also didn't forecast 30 named storms last year. We're forecasting an above normal season with 17 storms, 8 hurricanes, and 4 majors. A little bit above normal, but not up to the levels of the activity that we saw last year.
Where are we now with hurricane forecasting for the season?
I mean, the hard part is with the named storms as they are. Obviously, we're naming a lot more storms now than we used to for weak, short-lived storms. Since about 2000, we got some new microwave satellites that are really helping with naming these kind of weak, marginal storms. And so that's leading to about 2 more storms per year than we would have, say, named in the 80s and 90s.
They only last about 2 days.
They last about 2 days, and there's about 2 of those per year.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Kegas answering your questions live all hour on clickorlando.com. We just heard from Dr. Phil Klotzbach talk about the storms growing more intense, but it's when they are gaining strength that's catching people off guard and unfortunately taking more lives.
I think people have to think about how well they are equipped to react to a rapid intensifier.
Michael, Harvey, and Laura, all of them rapidly intensified shortly before landfall. The results were catastrophic for the Panhandle, devastating for Texas, and destructive for Louisiana.
I wish there was some magic wand that we could precisely tell you exactly where the hurricane is going to go and how strong it's going to be.
Jamie Rome specializes in storm surge for the National Hurricane Center.
If it's a Category 1 and everybody's taking a laissez-faire approach, let's say it suddenly rapidly intensifies to a Cat 3, will you have the time to respond? And in most cases, the answer is no. In fact, the people who have the greatest hurricane experience are most guilty of this. They tend to go, it's only a Cat 1. It's only a Cat 2. I'll only evacuate when it's a Cat 3. And this is absolutely wrong mindset.
The more intense the storm, the more devastating the storm surge, and that damage isn't just a threat for people right along the coast.
The ocean moving inland tens of miles and invading your home, that's something that few people have rarely witnessed with their own eyes, and so it becomes hard to understand.
And tens of thousands of people flocking to Florida each year have no experience at all with tropical storms and hurricanes, adding to the challenge for forecasters and emergency planners.
The amount of time it takes to evacuate a community goes up, and that forces the predictions to greater and greater lead times, right? So the science has to then hustle, if you will, to keep up with the population booms.
Hurricane Wilma in 2005 still holds the record in the Atlantic, strengthening a ridiculous 105 miles per hour in just 24 hours. I'm answering all of your questions for our hour-long newscast here on clickorlando.com from our web center here. Ask me any questions, and you can rewatch them afterwards at clickorlando.com/hurricane.
Well, Jonathan, as storms develop, we rely on data from the hurricane hunters who fly into storms. But parts of the storm are still too dangerous for even these brave men and women. So now they're testing a new drone, hoping to get results and get data back from those danger zones. Lieutenant Commander Adam Abitbol, a test pilot for NOAA, has flown into hurricanes for years. But this season, he'll be flying alongside a new member, a drone named Altius 600.
It'll be a new first for us here at NOAA, and we're excited about it for this season.
Right now, hurricane hunters rely on dropsondes, which are small, lightweight containers that collect data while they free fall into the ocean.
You don't always want to drop a drone, but this is next. This is what's going to get us to what's beyond a dropsonde.
Weighing 25 pounds with a wingspan of 8 feet, Altius was created by Area I, a private company specializing in drone technology.
And we actually integrated the same pressure, temperature, and humidity sensor that's in the dropsonde that is on the nose of Altius. We also added other sensors to add more data.
Along with more sensors, this drone has the ability to travel 200 miles away from the P3 while streaming in data.
Drone can last up to 4 hours collecting data and give us that continuity of data in the boundary layer.
The boundary layer is a complex zone near the surface.
But we live near the surface. So we want to know what the winds are. We want to know what this thing is doing right at the surface. And that's how the storm feeds itself. So we want to get down there, but it's too dangerous.
Too dangerous for hunters to fly through, limiting our data in a vital part of a storm. That's until now.
We get these drones and get them in these areas, and when we lose them, it's not a big deal.
We'll eject out of the aircraft, and then once clear of the aircraft, as we talked about before, it'll deploy its flight control services and begin flying.
Essentially becoming its own separate mini hurricane hunter.
So that we can kind of do two almost independent missions of data collection.
And it's this new stream of data that has the ability to improve forecasts for years to come.
This helps us in a real way, in a real world, in a economically viable way to do this. So it's a win-win for everyone.
It's kind of a really exciting new environment that we're gonna take into the 2021 season.
And just like those dropsondes, the drones will also be expendable. They need to perform a few more tests before the first official drone mission sometime this season.
Power crews know their risks, and so should you. Most insurance policies don't cover flooding. With hurricanes, that risk is very real, even in places you'd never expect.
If you can get a flood policy, get a flood policy.
Dewana Davis is FEMA's regional flood insurance liaison for Florida.
I live on a hill.
She's heard the excuses.
It just never floods. If it floods here, Noah's Ark would need to be here. So we hear that a lot. We try to dispel that.
In fact, 25% of flood insurance claims come from people who aren't in high risk or flood zones.
And that's a great amount. If you look at 1 in 4 claims is what you're saying.
And chances are good the risk is much greater than the cost of a policy.
If you're in a lower risk area, then more than likely that premium is going to be more affordable for you, and it will not be a burden to actually purchase flood insurance.
It'd be more like a benefit, so to speak. You know?
We did the math. The average flood insurance claim pays out $43,000. FEMA's disaster aid pays about $6,000. That's $37,000 in damage you'll have to worry about after a disaster, and it adds up fast.
Typically, 1 inch of water in your home on that first floor is approximate to $25,000 in damage.
Because that's usually where the priciest items to replace are, like kitchen cabinets and flooring. Also make sure your policy covers your contents. That's where flood insurance makes sense even if you live in a condo or an apartment.
I can't absolutely say everyone needs it, but everyone needs to look at their individual risk.
FEMA even offers policies through the National Flood Insurance Program.
The key to it, if you have a flood insurance policy, you're covered regardless of if there is a federal disaster declaration or not.
If you're like me, your pets are part of the family, so preparing your pet is crucial too. When News 6 at 7 continues, what a vet wants you to do before a storm hits. Plus, it's a critical piece of hurricane planning you can knock out now. Next, meteorologist Troy Bridges hits the stores, showing what you need most in your emergency supply kit.
Preparing your home before a storm, it's a must. But did you know there are a few things that you can do that not only secures your home, but can save you hundreds of dollars a year? I'll explain those tips coming up.
When preparing for hurricane season, one of the first places to go is the grocery store. Here's the deal. You have to be prepared to live without electricity for at least 2 weeks. For me, food comes to mind first. Think non-perishable food items, things that don't require refrigeration or heating up to eat. One of my faves, peanut butter. Try to get things the kids will actually want to eat. This one, even easy to open without electricity. And don't forget the pets, they also need 2 weeks of food in case we're stuck in the house. But there's one thing even more important than food, and that's water. Water is essential. We can't live without it. In fact, take a look at this. This is the amount of water one person needs for 2 weeks. And it's a good idea to pick up all the items you need for a first aid kit. One of the most important items is antibiotic cream. And don't forget to pick up all your prescriptions well in advance. The Red Cross recommends that you have at least 2 weeks of prescription medications on hand for you and for the rest of your family. Most of what you need for a good hurricane kit is what you'd pack to go camping. And if the power goes out, you and your family will need a few of these to get around. Think of coolers, insect repellent, and even those blue tarps. To help beat the heat when the electricity goes out, battery-powered fans and air conditioners come in handy. Of course, you don't want to forget the batteries. Just before a hurricane hits, these are flying off the shelves. That's why now is the time to buy gas cans. But one of the most important things you need to be prepared before the storm hits is a weather radio. This little device can be a lifesaver. A weather radio will sound an alert and give life-saving information when there's an emergency near you. Now through June 6th, most items you need are sales tax free. That includes portable generators up to $1,000. Find a full list at clickorlando.com/hurricane.
And preparing your home before a storm can certainly feel overwhelming, but some steps can not only get results, they could save lives and cut your insurance bill in half.
I mean, you make the one-time expense, in 2 years it'll pay for itself.
As a mitigation inspector, Steve Whipple has seen his fair share of homes, some ready for a storm and others not even close.
98% of the wind mitigation inspections I've done has saved the homeowner something.
From new building codes to insurance regulations, many lessons were learned after Hurricane Andrew in 1992.
The Insurance Commission stepped in and decided to create the 1802 form.
Once you get the inspection done, make any necessary improvements, fill out the form, and get big discounts on your homeowner's insurance.
Upwards of around $1,100 a year.
To do that, we start from the top, the roof. It's not just about the age or the type of covering. The structure of your roof and how it's all tied down is even more important. And it's this strap you want to see securing your home.
The strap completes it as becoming part of the structure. So your house and roof are brought together as one.
Another entry point, windows. Impact windows are ideal, but shutters also count. Inspectors not only look for the material of your window coverings like aluminum or wood, but also if they're installed properly.
You don't want to snap them in because you won't get any credit for that.
Next, your doors. Did you know the way your door swings open matters?
The storms have been known to blow doors in.
That's why it's best if your doors open outwards. And lastly, don't forget your biggest door, the garage.
Well, you can put the reinforcement channels on it if you don't already have them. They're probably about $20 a piece. The average garage door will take about 6 or 8 of them, and that can be done in the course of a weekend.
Making sure your home is ready for hurricane wind is important, but it's not the wind that causes 90% of deaths in a storm. It's the water, not the wind, that's most likely to put your life at risk. Water from storm surge slamming the shore and water from inland flooding. It's the water, not the wind. Here's why. To demonstrate the power of water, look at this trash bag. Empty, it weighs virtually nothing. But when I fill it with water, this 39-gallon bag suddenly weighs up to 300 pounds. Water moving at 4 miles per hour like that has the destructive force of an EF2 tornado. It only takes 1 foot of water to knock you off your feet. 2 feet of water can float your car. Remember, it's the water, not the wind.
And we all survived a record hurricane season and a pandemic in 2020. Tonight, hurricane season is back and the pandemic is still with us. The fatigue is real, but as Julie Broughton shows us, you can do something about it.
Try not to wait for a hurricane to hit before seeking help.
Even during, quote, normal times, the thought of a hurricane or tropical storm hitting your area is unsettling. Factor in a global pandemic and the anxiety can feel like too much to bear.
Just the presence of the pandemic definitely puts a heightened sense of anxiety in everybody. Doing mundane tasks like going to a grocery store, there's always that fear in the back of your head. With most things, especially with the pandemic, there's things we can do and there's things we can't do. We can't magically erase it, but we can deal with how we work with it.
Dr. Edward Singh with Orlando Health says he has seen an increase in patients seeking treatment for anxiety and depression since the pandemic began. He says there's a difference between daily worries and something that needs treatment.
If the quality of your life has decreased, so if your sleep is impaired, you're not eating as much, you're not interacting or working as well as you could be because you're constantly worrying. If it's something a bit more, I would recommend reaching out to a mental health professional to learn relaxation techniques and therapy, deep breathing exercises, sequential muscle contraction.
Dr. Singh says if you know storms cause anxiety for you, prepare now.
It never hurts to just reach out to somebody a month or two in advance and just saying, listen, I tend to be anxious during hurricanes. Is there anything I can do or learn now to help decrease that?
And for parents, talk to your kids before a hurricane approaches.
Letting them know that they have parents who are loving and supportive and can be with them no matter what, and just being that strong presence for them. Kids are extremely smart nowadays. Sitting down with them with a plan, like if this happens, this is plan A, this is plan B, this is plan Z, and this is what we're going to do.
For most people, pets are family. A local vet told me what pet parents, like me, should do before a storm to keep them safe.
Don't wait until the last minute.
That's the first pro tip we got from Dr. Jackie Minger, an associate veterinarian at the Central Florida Animal Hospital in Oviedo. She says making a hurricane kit specifically for your pet is key, and it should include the basics like 2 weeks worth of food, fresh water, and be placed in an airtight container. The list goes on.
2 weeks of medications, if they're on any medications. You should have a leash and a collar with their name and your up-to-date contact information.
Along with up-to-date vet records, 1 month supply of heartworm prevention, and flea medication. It's a lot of stuff that can be easily forgotten if you need to evacuate. Boarding your pet is an option, but it has to be planned out ahead of time too.
So a lot of times with boarding facilities, they want specific vaccinations to board with other animals in the population. So making sure they're up to date on their rabies vaccine, their canine influenza, their Bordetella vaccine, and also their distemper parvo vaccine.
Finally, you'll want to call ahead. Each facility may have their own requirements, which, if done at the last minute, can be costly and leave your pet only partially protected. Taking the disaster kit to the facility will ensure your pet's best care. If you have to leave and cannot take your furry friend, you need to have a plan for that too.
Speaking with your neighbors or your friends so that if they can take them and help you out, it's better to do that than leave your pets behind and then they get injured or even die.
Absolutely. We've posted a wealth of information in a special section of clickorlando.com. We'll take a closer look at that next.
Hi everyone, I'm Brianna Voles. With hurricane season here, our entire Pinpoint Weather team says the time to prepare is now. So we are here to help you get results. Head over to clickorlando.com/hurricane and you'll find everything you need to make sure you're ready for anything that comes our way. At the top of the page, all the latest news on the tropics. So if we're tracking something, here's where you'll want to look for updates. Also on this page, our Plan and Prepare section is full of important resources like emergency contact information and our new 6 Hurricane Preparedness checklist. Pro tip, print this checklist out and take it to the store with you to make hurricane shopping as simple and easy as possible. Also in Plan and Prepare, you'll find county by county resources. Just click on your county and bookmark the page that opens up because it's full of information specific to where you live, including emergency shelter details. We also have our Before the Storm section, which has anything and everything you can think of to help prepare your family for an emergency. Our During the Storm section has information that will be helpful once a storm has impacted our area. And of course, After the Storm offers advice on cleanup and how to avoid getting ripped off. It is all available to you year-round at clickorlando.com/hurricane.
From our team of Pinpoint meteorologists, thank you for joining us. Don't panic, just prepare. We'll be here getting results for you on TV, clickorlando.com, and our free hurricane app. To download, just search WKMG in the App Store. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Sorrells. Have a safe hurricane season.